Hey guys, how's it going? It's Blepner here with another team review, and today we're going to be looking at Energy Ball Galvantula in the Jungle Cup. Now, I just got a brand new shiny Galvantula last night, and it actually came with Energy Ball. And I don't know if you guys know, but I actually don't have any charge TMs left, so it kind of seemed like this was a little bit too perspicacious not to use this Galvantula here. So we're pairing it up with a Whimsicott on the lead and a SALAZZLE in the back. And let me tell you, this team is so fun to use. So satisfying to one-shot all of those ground and water types, and also, of course, to deal super effective damage to those ground types that you might find battling against the Galvantula in the safe swap. So let's see how this team does in action. So here we have Whimsicott into Talonflame. And so this is where the Galvantula is really nice, because oftentimes people feel compelled to swap. And of course what they're going to swap into is a ground type, right? Because if you see electric typing, then you're of course going to expect that you can beat it with a ground type. But that's not the case here, because we can just Volt Switch down the Palisand if we shield once. And that is a great situation, because we can threaten the Talonflame with a potential discharge here, because for all they know, we could have discharge and energy ball. So let's see what the Talonflame wants to do. Unfortunately, we couldn't throw a Volt Switch there, because if we did, we would die with the move, because it does take one move to throw one turn to throw a move, right? So we did have to throw the move immediately. We get taken out. Unfortunately, the Talonflame didn't fall for the bait. They didn't think we had discharge, but they do throw a flame charge there versus our SALAZZLE, and that is really good, because that means that they can't farm us down. They are debuffed. The fly, of course, would do so much more damage than the flame charge did, and we should be able to farm them down, because we got that one defense debuff from the Poison Fang, and you can see there that the Incinerates do so much damage. I think that that's one of the best decisions that Niantic made, was buffing Incinerate, just because it really makes fire types a lot more of a threat. And they do have an Obamasnow in the back here, and so we're able to completely sweep with the SALAZZLE. That is fantastic. Really satisfying to flip the secondary matchup with an energy ball from a Galvantula into a ground type, and then just completely sweep with SALAZZLE. And so here, Mantine in the lead is one of the worst leads that we can see. And actually the way that I play this out is that I usually just switch immediately into Galvantula, because oftentimes they won't have a direct answer to Galvantula, as we can see here with the Vigoroth. And sometimes when they have a direct answer to Galvantula, it's a ground type, or of course a water and ground type, which is probably one of the most common typings in this meta, where we can either one-shot ground and water types with the Galvantula, or flip switch versus ground types. And so here, they come back in with the Obamasnow. They unfortunately get the farm down here, which is not great. But we come in with our SALAZZLE, and remember, they still have a full health Mantine in the back, so this is definitely not over. We tank an energy ball. That is double resisted, so I think that a weather ball would probably do more, honestly. SALAZZLE is just so squishy that even a double resisted move like that does so much damage, though. And so what we're going to do is that we actually put them into into range here, where we can take them out with a Seed Bomb. And they go for an Ice Beam, and that is huge. As you're going to see here, them going for an Ice Beam actually wins us the game, because this way we actually pace evenly with them to moves. And yes, they are going to be able to take us out with an Aerial Ace, because they will just barely outpace us. Our SALAZZLE is always going to be just 2 Incinerates away from a Poison Fang, right? So we're putting them into Poison Fang range here. They do throw this last Aerial Ace at us, take us out, but they're not going to be able to outpace us to this Poison Fang. They switch into Obamasnow, which doesn't do anything for them. Maybe they thought that I was at the Poison Fang there, but yeah, this is just a good game. Thankfully, they went for that Ice Beam first. They should have gone straight Aerial Ace, and then they could have definitely won that. That's definitely a lesson for that opponent there. But here we have a Skarmory in the lead, and that is another very tough lead for us. But we switch immediately into Galvantula, and of course they're not going to stay in the lead with Skarmory, right? Because they expect us to have Discharge. But luckily for us, they switch out into Vigoroth, and Vigoroth is definitely not an answer to Galvantula when we have an energy advantage. Of course, they could go for the Rock Slide there and perhaps flip the matchup. Thankfully for us, they did not go for the Rock Slide. A safer play would have been to just shield, because they did have enough for the Rock Slide, and we have to shield here anyway. So no shielding there really didn't do us any good. In posterity, I mean, this is me talking about the battle after the fact, and of course it's easier to make calls after the fact. But here you see they come into a Swampert, and I'm ecstatic here, throwing this energy ball at the Swampert. This is so satisfying. Boom, we take out the Swampert, and this is a good game because the Incinerates are doing so much damage. Once again, props to Niantic for buffing Incinerate, because it feels like, I don't know about you guys, comment down below what you guys think, but for me, I feel like fire types were really lacking in competitiveness before the Incinerate buff last season, and now it's feeling like fire types are a much scarier threat, especially something like SALAZZLE that's able to debuff defense and has such a high attack stat. And so here we see Mantine, and Mantine is probably the worst lead that we can see. Once again, we switch into Galvantula, and so what we're trying to do when we switch into Galvantula is that we are trying to bait out a ground type so that we can throw this super effective energy ball. Boom! That does so much damage versus the Palossand. We're going to be able to farm this Palossand all the way down. Very satisfying to farm down a ground type with Volt Switches. Honestly, these Volt Switches are doing kind of a lot to the squishy Palossand. Galvantula is very attack weighted. And so that's also something that's really nice about Galvantula here with the energy balls. It's so attack weighted that even though the Volt Switches are resisted, it can Volt Switch down some crucial enemies like the Palossand, even though they double resist the Volt Switch. And you see here this time, they actually switch into the Mantine versus the Galvantula, and I'm anticipating a swap because they are scared that they're going to be farmed down by a Volt Switch if they stay in. And so, of course, they're going to swap there. And so me anticipating the swap actually wins us this game, because this Runerigus would be a huge problem for the SALAZZLE in the back, honestly, if they got the farm down on the Galvantula. And so we're saving the Galvantula here, which you guys are going to see. Saving the Galvantula here is huge because we do have a Volt Switch worth of damage potentially on the Galvantula. We're definitely not going to come in with the Galvantula here, but we do come in with the SALAZZLE, and we are going to no shield the double super effective Sand Tomb here because it's just such a weak move. Even though it's double super effective, and SALAZZLE is one of the most delicate Pokemon in the Great League, it still doesn't do enough. And then this Poison Fang is going to put them in range where we can take them out with a Volt Switch and an Incinerate here. Such a beautiful end game. That is pure fast move damage there with that Volt Switch. And those Incinerate damages, really nice end game. And here we have a mirror match, Whimsicott into Whimsicott, and so we actually bait here with the Seed Bomb, which is very dangerous because they could no shield the bait, and we no shield anyway. So if we were honestly trying to play out an extended matchup here, we should have shielded that. But luckily for us, we do guarantee ourselves a shield advantage at the very least. And so we're going to get to this Moonblast before they reach their move. So I guess that in the end, because they didn't shield, that bait paid off for us. Sorry, because they did shield, I should say. That bait did pay off for us. Because we get a shield advantage here. They come into a ground type. And so this is exactly how we win games with Galvantula, is by getting a shield advantage and then going into an electric type and baiting out the ground type. And so we could take them out in one Incinerate, so they did switch out. And they switch into a Vigoroth. And this is where meta reading is really important, because we can essentially just assume that a Vigoroth is in the back in a team like this, honestly. And because Vigoroth is so common, and SALAZZLE is such a good answer to Vigoroth, that that we can pretty safely win this battle. When you're facing a mirror lead, it's always kind of tough, because you have to make a call on how dangerous the opponent's backline could be to your backline. But in the situation like this, where they have a Vigoroth in the back, our backline should just win against that. Because once again, and they're never going to shield an energy ball, right? That's what makes this team so great, is that ground types do not shield energy balls from a Galvantula. Of course, after this video comes out, and after Energy Ball Galvantula gets more popular in general, I think that it's going to be more common that people will shield, unfortunately. But here we see that this Energy Ball into a Steelix, one of the most tanky Pokemons, does a lot of, it does a very impressive amount of damage. This is non-same type attack bonus Energy Ball, and it almost takes them out. And so yes, they still have a lot of health left, but actually those two Energy Balls did put them into farm down range for the Whimsicott, whereas Galvantula without Energy Ball would have never put Steelix into farm down range here. This is not a terrible situation, because we still have over half of our health on Whimsicott. And we are going to come into our SALAZZLE, and once again, like I said before, the game is to just read the meta, and if the meta is clearly Vigoroth heavy, then you could just stick in a SALAZZLE there and take out all the Vigoroths that come up against you. You can see here that the counters are actually dealing so much damage that Body Slam would easily take us out. But we don't have to worry, because this next Poison Fang is going to put them into range where we can take them out in 2 Incinerates. And we can safely shield up here, farm them down. We get to a Poison Fang. And after a Poison Fang and just a couple of Incinerates, they will be actually Moonblast range on their very bulky Skarmory, if you can believe it. Yeah, so we're going to immediately Poison Fang here. And look how much these Incinerates are doing. This is why Incinerate is such a terrifying move. So what we do is we recognize we get to 2 Moonblasts before the Skarmory can take us out. They have to throw a Sky Attack here, and they are within 1 Incinerate range here. So yes, they had to throw. Honestly, we could have probably thrown a Seed Bomb and taken them out here, but much safer to threaten the Moonblast, take them out with an Incinerate, and that is a good game. That is the power of SALAZZLE there. I'm glad that we ended on that really powerful showing from SALAZZLE. Once again, guys, Incinerate, such a powerful move. Energy Ball, such a powerful coverage charge move on Galvantula, if you can beta out a ground type or water ground type specifically. If you guys have this team, if you're able to use it, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know how you guys are doing in general in the Go Battle League and just in life in general. I always want to hear from you. And I'll see you next time. Bye.